this, the Monday, July 26, 2021 meeting of the Ellettsville Town Council. Chief, you want to say the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Marshall?
Our Heavenly Father, we come before you this evening, and again, we ask you for guidance, we ask you for clear mind, we ask you to help us to represent this town, represent the community that are here, the people that are here. We ask you to be with those that are on the agenda tonight, and we ask you that we all be in a good mind and a good spirit. Everything in Jesus' name, amen.
Sandy, roll call, please.
Scott Oldham.
Here.
Pamela Samples. Here. William Ellis.
Here.
Trevor Sager.
Here.
Dan Swafford.
Approval of the minutes for regular meeting, July 12th, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Action to pay accounts payable vouchers.
And payroll.
And payroll, sorry.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 2021 budget meeting dates.
Piece of aluminum foil like this.
Can we mute everyone, please? We'll only unmute as they're given permission to speak.
Okay, I have the supervisors, talked with, I shared this with them. These dates work with them, okay, so now how would they work with you? This is the old schedule where the supervisors present the budgets to you, and then a roundtable discuss it with them if you desire that meeting, and then our final, our pre-adoption hearing will be September 13th, final adoption September 27th.
Questions from the council? Well, then I'd like to ask a question myself for the council. We last year tasked the city man or town manager to set budgets and then bring forth one unified proposal rather than setting through a roundtable of multiple different presentations and weeding them through ourselves, as I think town manager and supervisors are a little better positioned to whittle where we need whittled and add where we need to add. Do you still want to see every presentation, or are we going to accept, as we did last year, the town manager bringing forth one unified budget proposal? Which, of course, we can then take apart if we need to.
Scott, I think some members of the audience in the back are having trouble hearing you.
Okay, we'll do our best.
I like the unified we had last year. I'm fine with Mike and supervisors bringing that all together as one package. I could go either way with it, but I thought last year worked efficiently.
I'd like them separate, to hear in each individual one.
And for me, I would like it separate with a caveat. I don't need 20, 30-minute presentations for a budget. I just need like an elevator speech, a minute or two on what you need, why you need it. And if I have questions, I can ask. One of the problems with a lot of the, not just necessarily with us, but when I see other bodies have these, you know, it's like 20, 30 minutes of slides. I won't need that. I don't know if other people will, but I think if they have questions, they can ask the supervisors. But I definitely think Mike should be involved with all of them. But I kind of want to drill down to each supervisor, because one of the things we really need to make sure is that as we always do, is our budgets are responsible, and I think that would be an easier thing for me hearing directly from the supervisors.
See, I'd like to go the unified budget proposal route, having done both over the years. That said, I can acquiesce to wanting to see it, but I do not want a 5-hour meeting as we've had before.
That's why
and
I
it turns
said
into a giant circus.
We need an elevator speech from people. Would you agree with that?
No, yeah, and again, that's what the unified budget typically was. When they brought it, each one would have 5 or 10 minutes, but it wasn't a presentation every half hour for 5 hours.
I don't think we need that. I mean, I think the supervisors could all be here, and they have 1 to 2 minutes. I don't know why it would take more than To answer questions, yes,
I get
but
it.
we don't need the presentation to be 10, 15 minutes.
And again, that's kind of what I meant with the one unified thing already put together, but we can go however. Do we need all of these dates, I guess is my question?
And I will get you the budget form one before the meeting so that you can be ready with questions if you need to make them.
I mean, what I have in mind is more like just the August 19th date, a round table.
Yeah. I'm good with that.
How about you think, Pam?
that?
That's where all the supervisors
The
are there.
round table.
Yeah. I mean, we don't, it's,
So Sandy, can we go with the 19th only then?
Yes, most certainly. I'll mark that one off and do it.
it's kind of a good compromise between the
Yeah.
two.
Okay, so we'll set August 19th, 2021 as a work session to discuss the budget beginning at 6. And in all seriousness, please have most of this worked out before it comes to us. So in the past, for everyone who has not done this before, we have been here 5 and 6 hours, literally adding $5 to this account and $10 to that account, subtracting 10 from a fourth account. And it just got to the point of ludicrousy. So that's why, again, the unified budget proposal was one that was brought forward. But we'll go this route and see where we kind of wind up.
And with the roundtable, what I envision is if we have the budgets beforehand, have a list of, each council member have a list of questions, and if they don't have questions, then boom.
Sure.
If they do, then they can ask the department head.
And we will still work on a presentation to present to start the meeting off, if that's okay with you.
That's fine.
And then we'll go
A
from
short
there.
one?
Yeah, I don't think our presentation was too terribly long last year.
No, I don't recall right offhand, but it was on Zoom, so it's all,
It's a slideshow, but it wasn't over 10 slides, I don't think.
18.
18. But they're pretty simple.
Okay, so that'll be our date. Moving forward now to Indiana Upland Ready Grant, Stormwater and Beautification Project.
I guess I'll speak to this. I've been working with Kyle Hannon about, he's with Envision Ellettsville, and he brought to my attention that it's possible that we might be able to apply for a regional, it's a READY grant stands for Regional Economic Acceleration and Development Initiative. And it's through the state, and Indiana Uplands is kind of the region that we're part of, that it's the name they're using now. And so this READY grant would complement our floodwater project and turn it into a quality of place project that we might be able to make a silk purse out of a sow's ear when we take care of some of the flooding on Vine Street. So we think, you know, if we apply for the grant, get monies, we can make the area look real nice, and it will attract visitors, possibly businesses, and, you know, townspeople to be able to utilize that area as, I don't know if I want to say wet part, but it would complement the trail across the way, across the banks, and become part of some of the revitalization of downtown Ellettsville. I'm sure the Main Street will have something to say about it, and so there you go. So we just want to make an application and see where it goes, and this money would just add to whatever monies we were using to work the flood project. Like I said, just maybe put some streetscape in and this, that. And so I just want to, I was told a long time ago to let you know when I'm working on grants and such, so I am.
Okay.
There's a gentleman called.
Pardon?
A gentleman called me. Is he here? Did he want to speak about this READY grant?
I don't think so, unless there's questions.
Okay.
Is there questions from the council concerning this grant? So you'll bring us more information as this unfolds, correct?
Yeah, we haven't even made the application. I could pass it on, and you could, and so you could take some information from the grant application itself. And so I think it's due by July 30th. So it'll get sent to me, and so I'll pass it along to the board and department heads.
All right. Moving on, there are no resolutions this evening. There are no ordinances on first reading. The first ordinance on second reading tonight is ordinance 2021-14 to establish an electronic meeting policy.
This is the second reading for this ordinance, and so there were some corrections I made, or that I suggested I would make after the first reading, specifically under section 31.24, capital letter B. The first sentence read, subject to subsection I, which is incorrect. It should say subject to subsections D and G, so I have corrected that. For paragraph D, under 31.24, it now reads, at least 50% of the members must be physically present in a meeting at which a member will participate by means of electronic communication. And I deleted, not more than 50% of the members may participate by an electronic means of communication at the same meeting, because it didn't make sense. You can't have 3 off-site and 3 on-site at the meeting. So I just got rid of the second sentence, or redacted the second sentence. And then the only other changes I made were, you had a subsection L, which I didn't think needed to be in the ordinance online when people went to look it up online. And that was the section whereby the town council encouraged the other departments to adopt the policy. I added a new section with regard to the severance clause. Should any part of this ordinance be declared invalid or unconstitutional, that declaration shall not affect the part of the ordinance which remains. So those are the changes I made.
Okay. Questions from council? Questions from the public concerning this ordinance? Seeing none, back to the council for potential action.
I'll make a
Go ahead.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 2021-14 to establish an electronic meeting policy.
Second.
You got it. God, frozen out.
Motion and a second, if you'll let William go first since he's...
No, I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good.
William Ellis,
Oh, let's see. Aye.
Scott Oldham,
Yes.
Pamela Samples. Yes. Trevor Sager.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Next is ordinance 2021-15 to amend zone maps at 3888 West State Road 46, Bloomington, Indiana, from C3 to a planned unit development.
May I make a request?
Sure.
This is probably going to take a while, and we have a couple of much simpler items under new business, I thought. Under old business, for the building inspector and a promotion. Would you care terribly to do those two and then come back to this one?
Council, do you have problems?
I have no
I'm
problem
fine
with
with
that.
it.
Does the petitioner for ordinance 25 have an issue with that? Okay. So we'll come back to ordinance 2021-15 momentarily. Under old business is new building inspector approval.
I'll take this one. This is the position that you all approved at the last meeting. There was a posting, and the administration of the fire department conducted interviews, as well as administration with the planning, zoning, Denise and Kevin. And we have the name of Ron Van Devender, who is currently a part-time firefighter, a regular part-time firefighter with us. And that was the name we're bringing to you for approval for a building inspector.
Okay. Questions from council? Do you have any issues with this? No. Sarah? This is a personnel decision. Is there motions from council?
I'll get this one. I'll make a motion to approve new building inspector.
Second.
Sandy, please.
Scott Oldham?
Yes.
Pamela Samples?
Yes.
William Ellis?
Yes.
Trevor Sager?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Well, thank you.
Next is request for foreman promotion at the Department of Public Works in the street division.
I guess that'll be me. About a week or so ago, we internally advertised for the position in-house, and we only had one applicant for it in-house. It's Jay Humphrey, and Jay has worked alongside with me when Danny was here, learning kind of what I did And he's actually also himself attended some of the Purdue scholar programs for a road school, and he's working on his certificate for road builder. And I, for unfortunate reasons, had to be off work for a couple weeks here, and Jay stepped up and did a really good job. I don't know if Mike's been talking to Jay while I was out, and Jay's done a really, really good job. And I'd like to recommend Jay to become foreman of the street division of the Department of Public Works.
I fully support that. I can't wait till it gets approved.
Okay.
So what pay scale are you talking to?
The pay scale is 2771 to 2819, and I mean, he virtually, he worked with me the other day up there in the office, and I showed him something, and it was like, it was done. And he's done really good at it, and I don't know if it's okay with the council. I'd like to go ahead and put him at the full pay.
I'm for the full pay because he is very good. I've never heard any complaints about him. And like you said, he has took your position to kind of run things on his own, so he's proved that he can do it.
I see no reason not to give him full pay. I mean, since the night of June 19th, he's been taking some leadership roles, and while Kip was off, and he took care of business on the day-to-day, and so that would be a good idea.
So really, this band is only 40 cents difference from the top of the band to the bottom of the band? Is that what I heard you say?
2771 to 2819, yeah.
There's just $1,000 spread, an annual $1,000 spread on the salary ordinances, and that went into place under Jim Davis when he was the town manager. He requested that I do that from now on because I had tended to raise that top number and not the bottom, and we had gotten quite a big difference in there. So that was his suggestion, and I've done that ever since.
Some of our job classifications in utilities have a little wider spread on them, and some of our part-time jobs as well. So.
And this also fits in with the job study that was done.
Okay. Sandy, I'm making an assumption that the council will probably approve this. Do we need to retroactive this to set with the pay date with your payroll, or effective a certain day? Because clearly payroll didn't start today, did it?
Yes.
Okay, so effective day is fine?
Today is a new pay period.
Okay. All right. Is there motions from council?
I'll make a motion to approve Jay Humphrey being promoted to foreman at the Department of Public Works Street Division. At the pay rate specified today.
And I'll second that.
Scott Oldham?
Yes.
Pamela Samples?
Yes.
William Ellis?
Yes.
Trevor Sager?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you very much.
Stand up, Jay. Let them know who you are.
Yeah, he's here. I'm sorry.
Congratulations.
Very quickly, we'll come down to the flood report. Anything?
I have nothing to report.
Okay. And Envision Ellettsville, Mr. Rary, do you want to update us on that?
Nothing to report.
Okay. Under new business, approval for town council president to sign financial commitment letter for community crossings matching grant application.
That's, Denise has applied for the grants, and the paperwork is there. It requires your signature for her to submit the information, and there's 2 sheets in the red folder that have the dollar amounts on them.
Hi, this is Denise in Planning. I'm on Zoom. And we're applying for 2 community crossing grants. One is for paving various streets in town, and the one is for culvert work to be done. So to go with the grants, I have to have a letter of financial proof that we have the money in our funds to pay the matching portion of the grant. And that's what I'm requesting permission for Scott Oldham to sign.
Questions from council? Motions from council?
I'll make a motion for approval for town council president to sign financial commitment letter for community crossings matching grant application.
Second.
Motion second. Sandy, please.
Scott Oldham.
Yes.
Pamela Samples.
Yes.
William Ellis.
Yes.
Trevor Sager.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thanks so much.
Now we're going to return to ordinance 2021-15 to amend the zone maps at 3888 West State Road 46, Bloomington, Indiana, from C3 to a plan unit development. And Kevin, if you'll please keep everyone muted that's on Zoom until we call for them.
Yep.
Who wants to handle this one?
Petitioner here. You want to put your presentation up? Yeah. All right. I'll let you do all the talking. Got it.
Good evening, all. My name is Tyler Ridge. I represent the Ridge Group here on this 2021-15, the PUD there. I'd like to provide some specifics on the flats on 46 project.
I could interrupt you just a moment. I'm not sure your microphone's on. If you can either adjust it, because it's hard for us to hear you.
Is that better?
No.
No.
I can try to talk louder, or?
Maybe just get really close.
Is that better?
Yeah.
I'm not real sure. I'll try to talk as loud as I can.
Mike? Mike Corman, would maybe if you load him does that reach? Darn it, okay. Sorry.
No, it's all right. I'll talk as loud as I can. So I just want to provide some specifics, or project summary rather, on this Flats of 46 project. Starting with the kind of the unit blend or the unit count. There will be 6 buildings identical in nature. Some will be mirrored based on the site plan, but they will all be identical, so they will all have these the same amount of units. So there's 168. So there'll be 168 units total, 293 parking spots. That unit blend consists of 48 studios, 72 one-bedrooms, and then 48 two-bedrooms. You can see the square footages there dictated right outside the units. So 400 square foot, 420, 555, 610, 850, and then 935. I wanted to touch briefly on the clubhouse and amenities. We will have a 24-hour fitness center, flex space, which we thought was very important. So we'll have a larger flex space than typical, which will be kind of that office conference room area that if you needed to work from home or to print something off, you could go use that flex space or hold a conference, a video conference. It'll have that capabilities. The clubhouse will also have an indoor-outdoor lounge. I'll show you kind of what I mean on some renderings on a later slide. There'll be a full-time leasing manager on site, a coffee bar, and then an outdoor park with a dog run and covered grill stations. The finishes consist of CCTV and access control at each building. So the cameras will all have, or the parking lots will all have cameras. The interiors will all have cameras. We do that as much for liability as we do safety. There's stainless steel appliances in each unit will be provided. Laundry centers, your 2-bedroom units typically get a front load, and then your 1-bedrooms and studios typically just get your stacked laundry centers. Each unit will come with a patio at the ground levels and balconies at levels 2 and 3. There's central heating and cooling throughout, granite or quartz countertops, whatever one is more readily available right now. LED light fixtures throughout, LVP flooring, valet trash service, and high-speed internet. Hit that next slide, please. So I wanted to touch briefly on the location and the market study. Our target market to be served includes housing for 1 to 4 persons with income levels ranging from $25,337 to $94,500. That's basically a large, and I've offered to share this with whoever would like to read it, but they pull a large demographic from the area, the subject area, and it's basically comes from people can't pay a rent or a mortgage higher than 35% of their income. So that's kind of where that number comes from. Total absorption period is expected to be 12 to 13 months. If you don't know much about the multifamily industry, that's a very strong absorption period. I mean, you're taking all 168 units and filling them up in 12 months. So it does show a need. The area shows a strong need for alternative housing outside of homes. I also put some other points on there from the market study. So there's a need for these apartments at a rent that is consistent with the income of early career professionals. I mean, how many people here started by apartment? I know I personally did. I've talked with a couple other people. They have also. So it is a need that people, you can't graduate college and buy a home unless you're very fortunate. So our target market are the young professionals working in the area. So attraction and retention of these tenants are important to the economic development of Ellettsville and the region. It's kind of how our look and our unit sizes are all meant to attract these young professionals. Let's go down to, so we do require background checks for each application against criminal history and sex offender databases. So that's part of our liability and insurance, and our management company performs those tasks. Project timeline. So if approved, we would start construction in October or November of 2021 based on state release and city approvals. Construction completion would be 18 to 20 months, so that March to April 2023 date, and then stabilization per the market study, that 12 to 13 months gets you to a May 2024 date. So it is a 3-year process, more or less. Touch on, so Katie's going to come up here after a bit and touch a little more on the site plan, but these are the two lots we're looking at in the subdivision. Next slide, please, Kevin. This is a prettier picture. This shows the green space, the plantings, the buildings are in orange, and again, Katie will come up and discuss this a little bit. The community park towards what would be the northeast large area there. I can't tell the building numbers, but again, Katie will bring those up. And I think lastly, I wanted to provide some images. One's a concept rendering, so if you can go to the next slide, please. So this is what we're actively designing towards. So more modern, Colorado feel style, but that's the clubhouse. Those doors will open up like as an accordion type system. Then you'll have that indoor outdoor lounge area I discussed, and then the apartment buildings are in the background there. This is a project we just completed over north of the historic Woolery Mill there in Bloomington, so you can drive by these, or we could even offer unit tours. We came online January 2021 with 130 units, and they're completely full right now, so 100% full. So there's 5 buildings, 130 units, so very similar building style, and then we just provided more marketing images, so you can flip through those, Kevin. So that's another building. Like I said, very similar in style and size. We're actually holding the building footprint on the site plan of this exact building. Next slide, please. And that just same images of the exterior, and I believe we have a few of the interior in here. And then this would be your finish level. So LVP throughout, which actually helps a lot with unit turns. It's a lot easier to pop up a couple planks and replace scratch planks than it is to change out carpet, the smell. I mean, we've taken all these things into consideration. Upgraded plumbing fixtures, stainless steel appliances. So you can just kind of see the finish level there. More modern door style, the 6-panel door style. This is the studio unit. So we would have 48 of these. You have your large barn door. We kind of thought a good way to break up a studio, if you have someone over, is to give yourself some privacy but keep that space. So you actually have a 1-bedroom within the studio, but the square footage is more aligned with the studio. So, and then just another image of the finish level. And there may be one more. Yeah, you can go back. So happy to take any questions anybody may have, but if not, Katie's going to come up and discuss the site a little bit more in specific.
I know it's a large file, but if you rotate it clockwise, that may be easier for people to. Well, while Kevin's doing that, I will go ahead and get started. So thank you for hearing us tonight. I am Katie Stein with the Smith Design Group, and we are the site civil engineers for the Ridge Group. So we have had the privilege of working with Tyler and Lynn Coyne to put together this PUD petition. I apologize. This site plan is wonderful, except it is very large. So any kind of movement Kevin does, that's probably good at this point. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Kevin. So as you guys may know, these are two parcels that are within the Ellis Ridge subdivision that just recently got approved, I want to say in June of this year. So these two lots will be the multifamily lots that the Ridge Group is proposing to develop. As you can see or partially see, they're going to have the 6 buildings that Tyler talked about. There is the clubhouse that is up on the north side, kind of centralized in this site plan. And then in the center is a community park. So this, again, is a concept plan. We're not seeking development plan right now. We're working towards that. The buildings are in orange, and then the parking lot's all in gray. We've got the main road going through it. It's part of the Ellis Ridge subdivision that has sidewalk on both sides, so there will be lots of sidewalk and connectivity throughout this entire neighborhood. So some of the things I want to talk about are what we are proposing to change from the existing zoning, which is a C3 zone right now, to the PUD. One of those are we're matching more or less the setbacks. Because we are adjacent to single family on both the east and the west side, we are proposing to double our building setbacks in those areas. And I believe that correlates more or less with the C3 zone. Whether we'd have a different zone or different use, we are proposing to double those setbacks, going from 20 feet to 40 feet now for the buildings. The other change that we're going to do in the C3 zone, there is a maximum height of 45 feet that is proposed. This PUD, we are proposing to go a maximum of 40 feet, and then the proposed buildings that the Ridge Group intends to put on these lots is 37 feet. So we are reducing our height in that regards. The next item is parking with the Ellettsville ordinance and the C3. Well, I don't know if it's a zone, but the C3 zone requires that for multifamily, we have to provide 2 parking spaces per unit. A lot of these, as Tyler mentioned, are studios. They're 1 bedrooms, and I believe over 70% of the units that they are proposing are the studios, and 1%, meaning we don't always need 2 cars for those units. So what we did was we took the parking requirements that are similar to the city of Bloomington and Monroe County and manipulated them to fit what the Ridge Group needed for their units. And so with this PUD, we would need to have 255 spaces. So this site plan has 293. So there are some extra for visitors, overflow, people coming to use the park. So there are more parking is proposed than what is actually required for this PUD. The other part of this is our landscape. Within the town of Ellettsville, we are required to landscape, we are required to buffer, but within that ordinance, there aren't set standards. So what we did in the PUD was set standards as far as what we are going to do and commit to from a landscape and buffering standpoint. So obviously the major buffering, and really the only buffering, is going to be where we are adjacent to the existing single family developments that are on the east and the west of this development. So there are existing trees, and we would like to keep those to the greatest extent possible, and we are not going to count any of those existing trees towards the buffer yards that we are proposing. So we show some plants on here as far as where the trees are going to be located and the buffering. I will say the interior landscape, we've got a whole ordinance that is similar to what the city of Bloomington requires, and our landscape architect, as we move forward with this, will be making sure that we meet those requirements, and that basically handles parking lot, interior plantings, foundation plantings, making sure that our parking islands have the required plants and everything. So. Again, this is just kind of illustrative to show some of it, but it is not a full landscape plan. And then the last thing that I want to touch on is the community park. This was something that I believe was very important to the Ridge Group to incorporate. A community park that will be used not only for the multifamily, but of course this is part of a subdivision, so there is going to be new residential single-family homes to the north. But there's also neighborhoods that are adjacent to this that, you know, this can be used for the community. And Tyler touched a little bit on this, but intend on things possible to have in there are maybe some shelters with some grills, some dog parks, maybe a playground, a bocce ball court. Those are the types of things that they would like to incorporate, and then we will fine-tune kind of those details as we work through the development plan through this. So that's the site plan. Again, this is a conceptual site plan. It's not the final site plan, but this is more or less the direction and the plan that we're going to move forward with. So with that, Lynn Coyne, I don't know if Lynn wants to come up or not, but Tyler and I are more than happy to answer any questions that anybody may have on this. So thank you.
Introduce myself. I'm Lynn Coyne with Bunger and Robinson. I represent the petitioner. We're here to answer your questions. So to clarify on the parking, we're requesting reduced parking from the 336 that would be required down to 293. So that's what this represents is a PUD. Some people, how did we get here? There were, as Katie outlined for you, changes to what a C3 would require us to do that we don't want to do. So we came as a PUD to reduce those requirements. We talk about a little bit of a down zone sort of to this area. So that's how we got here. But we'll be glad to answer your questions as they come up. So thank you.
Any council questions currently for petitioner or for staff? Okay, do you want to make a comment on this at all?
I don't.
Kevin, do you have anything before we open it for the public?
I don't have anything to add.
Okay. We're going to open this for public comment at this point. If you would direct your attention to the council specifically, there is a limit of 3 minutes per comment. We'll keep track and ask you to keep your comments absolutely as brief as possible, but 3 minutes is your maximum cap. So with that said, is there a public comment on this petition?
Would you like me to sign in again?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you.
Otherwise, Sandy gets a little cranky, and we don't want that to happen.
Absolutely not. My name is Nick Brell. I live at the 4 acres on the eastern edge of this Ellis Ridge development. I live there with my wife, who's a special education teacher for RBB, and with my 3-year-old and my 4-month-old. The petition in front of you is for 168 apartments. I think that this will have a dramatic and negative impact on the value of homes in the immediate vicinity of our neighborhood. The increased traffic will lower property values, and that has been shown in peer-reviewed journal articles. Traffic generated from the apartments accounts for about nearly 1,000 trips per 24 hours, and that is going to be directed through Ashbrook, which is a sleepy development that does not have sidewalks or curbs or lines on the road even. And then this is going to exit onto 46, which is at a stop sign. So this poses a significant risk to the community and to the residents and patrons of this development. But this isn't just the apartments that we should be considering. We should also be thinking about the 3 commercial properties and the other 14 homes that are also on this 17 acres. So this is a substantial increase in density for this area. The apartments also fringe on the existing homes in the area because they have a rather commanding height topographically, but also they have balconies that overlook our properties. The petitioners claim that this fills a critical housing need in Ellettsville. And certainly there is a housing need in Ellettsville and in the Bloomington area in general. But we were told at the beginning of this year that a one-bedroom apartment would rent for $965 a month. It's probably more than that now. I do not know. But when I look up at the U.S. Census Bureau, the average income for my zip code is $37,000, and Ellettsville is $52,000 for median household. A number of different government and charitable organizations say that affordable housing is 30%, not 35%, which is what the petitioner said. That includes Census, Harvard, U.S. HUD, Brookings, and Pew Charitable Trusts have all say that it's 30% is affordable housing. So this is not affordable housing for people who live in Ellettsville. If you just look at the teachers who are professionals, who have a master's degree in Ellettsville, they cannot afford to rent a one-bedroom apartment from this complex. In comparison, they can afford a $250,000 home with a 10% down payment. And so I think that the Ellettsville, do the math, Ellettsville is, if you can look up the, I think that Ellettsville in this council should be looking at uplifting the middle class in the community, and because we know that home ownership and education are the routes into the middle class.
I have a question.
Yes.
And I'll probably ask everybody speaking.
Sorry, it was time, so go ahead.
Okay. If this were built before you moved here, would you have moved here?
No.
Thank you.
Further questions? Seeing none, is there additional public comment? Step up, please.
It's kind of like The Price is Right, but you don't win anything.
I'll let that go. I was going to go down a whole road, but gets us nowhere.
Yeah.
I'm Linda Summers. I don't know if this is on or not. I don't think it is, but I want to thank the neighbors for coming tonight and sharing their concerns with you and taking their free time to do this. I did talk to a lot of neighbors last week and today, and was really surprised how many did not have an interest in coming, saying that it didn't make any difference what they said, because you pretty much have your minds made up when it comes to developments like this. I do not believe that. I think that you do listen to us, and what we have to say is very important for your decision making, because we live there and we know the impact on the lives. The main problem, concern for me and for many people, is the traffic. I think we all know that the traffic on 46 is ridiculous, and if you live in the neighborhood that I live on Ashbrook, then trying to get out Deer Park with the one stop sign there can be very difficult if you're turning left to go to Bloomington, and I do work in Bloomington. I see a problem with the apartments in that not only that they're going to have so many more cars coming through my neighborhood, but that the people that are living there, even in the homes, they can't turn left, they can only turn right. No one has brought that up tonight, but when you come in from Bloomington, you can turn right to go into your apartment, and when you leave, you have to turn right again. Now, what that does, and if I were in that situation, and I wanted to go to Bloomington, and I had to turn right, I would be using that middle lane. I know it's against the law, but I would use the middle lane to make a U-turn instead of going, down to the gas station, or where would you go to make the U-turn to get to Bloomington? Nobody's brought that up, and that is a big concern here. So I feel bad for the houses that are there, but 168 apartments added to it, it really is ludicrous. I'm not even sure. I know I would not move into an apartment where I had to either go up the new street, Kempt, to Ashbrook, and then down Deer Park, and wait in a line of 6 cars minimum, depending on the time of day, especially if it's around 8 a.m. or 5 p.m., and trying to get to Bloomington. Or they have offered another route, which is even worse, I think, and that is you go up Kempt from your apartment and you go to Ashbrook, then you go to Ridgemore, and then you turn right on Shadowwood, and then you go all the way around Shadowwood. You turn on a street I don't remember, it's a new housing addition. Then you turn on another one and you can finally get to Centennial where there's a light. Now, going with the light makes sense to me, but I know from the Planning Commission meetings I've been to, that's not possible. So I'm asking you to please cut down on the traffic congestion by not approving the apartments. Single homes are great. We all knew that this property was going to be developed. No one has a problem with that. But let's not make the problem worse with the traffic. Thank you.
Just a question like I asked the other petitioner. If this were already there before you moved in here, would you have moved there?
No. When I moved there, Woodgate wasn't even there. There was a little lake back there. My father's a contractor, and he built my home for me. And, you know, he told me that this was a great neighborhood. There was just going to be houses all around. I never dreamt that there would be 168 apartments dropped in the middle of all of these houses.
And you tell your people that said we don't want public comment.
Yes.
That we do. We're not Bloomington, we're not Monroe County. We actually will listen to the public.
Thank you. I will.
Other public comment? Step up, please.
Hello, my name's Eric Selberg. I live on the same street. The only question I got is about the traffic. They don't go to speed limit on the street anyway. It's 20 and they're going 40. So you put that many more cars with no sidewalks and it's a narrow street anyway, something bad's gonna happen. I gotta watch walking my dog down the street because they come down there, they do not stop at stop signs. Coming out of Woodgate, they just make that turn at a 20-mile-an-hour pace. That's the only question I have. They will not be the speed limit. It's 20 miles an hour through there. They run 30, 35, 40. In between stoplights, and it's only 3 blocks.
Further public comment? Step up, please.
Good evening. My name is Tom Spoonamore, S-P-O-O-N-A-M-O-R-E. I'd like to say I built my house on Ashbrook Lane in 1994. When I built the house, I knew that the property behind me was going to develop. It was all woods. It was great, you know, for 10 years anyway. And in the street, the open field down there, I knew the family eventually would sell that property as well. 10 years later, they started developing at Woodgate, tore all the woods down, you know, it's progress. So, and I won't even go into all the issues that caused, but anyway, and then they opened the road up to our street. And like the gentleman said, that people just run through there, they don't even stop. I mean, I come from I'm 2 houses down to the east of that, and when I come out, I gotta stop because I'm afraid they're not gonna stop. I've seen them run through there many times. The police department has plenty of record of people sitting down there, you know, catching people running that stop sign, because they used to do it years ago. The police sat down there. So that when they sold the property in the street, I couldn't imagine they're gonna put 168 apartments in there. The apartments look nice, but I don't think this is the right spot for them. It's very dangerous. There's a lot of traffic, and it's not right to put all that traffic down Ashbrook Lane and out Deer Park Drive. Deer Park, especially in the wintertime, the hills there are very dangerous, and putting more traffic out there will just cause a lot more issues. So, and no, I wouldn't build a house there. If I just,
you knew I was going to ask.
Other public comment?
Hello, my name is Tyron Cooper. I want to be very quick, Tyron-Cooper. So I live on Deer Park Drive, right at the top of that hill. We've been blessed to have kids playing on that street, that very steep hill there. People walking, jogging on that street. If the proposed traffic is to come on that side of the town, if you would, that could very well be dangerous. And so I think we should really think about the human aspect of this project. What does it mean for the kids, the families who are currently using that street for recreational purposes and so forth? So I would not, to answer your question prematurely, move in that neighborhood with that project. So thank you very much for hearing my comment.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you very much.
In this edition. So I think Ashbrook is counted. Okay. Other public comment? Step up, please.
Good evening, Council. My name is Craig Kuntz. Thank you for hearing our community voice their concerns this evening. I live in Spring Valley, and I live Brookholder Court, which is the cul-de-sac off of Ashbrook Lane. I purchased my house there about 25 years ago when it was a nice, quiet, and safe community. And then came Woodgate, and we have dealt with that, but as one of my neighbors mentioned, Ashbrook is sort of a racetrack at times, particularly for people who have to use the street. I noticed that our petitioner made a good point of pointing out something, a quality item with their project, and that is the sidewalks. Unfortunately, the neighborhood that the traffic is proposed to go through has no sidewalks. And our neighborhood is quite diverse. We have senior citizens that walk on the streets every day, morning and night. We have multiple people that walk dogs, as one of my neighbors mentioned. I have 4 dogs, and I walk the dogs 2 or 3 times every day up and down Ashbrook Lane. And along the edge of the street, I have no choice. We have many children that wait for school buses, that ride their bicycles, that walk to friends' houses. We have people that work in the businesses across 46, and you can see them every evening walking to and from work, particularly the Taco Bell, and they have to walk in the street. So I spent 30 years working for Ford Motor Company, and after that, I went to work for a crane contractor where I'm still employed today. One of the key driving principles of their business operations was safety. Safety for employees, safety for visitors, and that's, I think, the driving force with this development. Yes, I agree the apartments are beautiful, and I think the petitioners have done a great job presenting their case. It certainly is a place people who are looking for apartments would like to live. However, it creates a very unsafe situation for the people who currently live there now. In fact, just last Thursday, while I was walking 2 of my dogs, I was almost hit by a service truck on Ashbrook Lane, and we had gotten off the street. I always have to pull the dogs off the street. And fortunately, there was a phone number on the side of the service truck, and I called and reported the driver. But that happens all the time. And adding maybe 1,000 cars more a day, going up and down one little lane with no sidewalks, I think presents a very dangerous situation. Added to that is there's no stoplight at Deer Park. So that's kind of a double dangerous situation for the residents that live there to put such a high density neighborhood in. Me, like everybody there, had always hoped that the property would never be developed. Of course, we understood that it would, but and residential, like is currently there now, would certainly be welcome and wonderful. But I think with the current situation, it's just too unsafe, not only for the people who currently live there, but even those who would hope to move there. What if one of those residents hit one of those?
Wrap it up, please.
Okay, if one of those residents hits one of those elderly people on the street, we've got a real problem. So just consider that is the safety, I think, is the most important issue here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kevin, real quick before we ask the next person to stand up, and forgive me because I don't know the answer to this. At Ashbrook, where we're talking about the connector, is that county or town?
Both.
Okay.
It splits right, I think, halfway through. Part of it's in the county, part of it's in town.
Do you know where it splits?
Or not Ashbrook. You talking Ashbrook or I thought you were talking about Ridgemore.
No.
Ashbrook's ours.
Okay, so
And-
that entire lane is ours, so if we wanted to install traffic calming at some point, we could, and not have to go through the county.
Yeah, and one other thing I just remembered, the connection on Centennial Drive through Centennial Park is almost done, which will alleviate a lot of traffic coming out of Woodgate and Centennial Park that right now has to go down Deer Park to 46. Though that will go down Centennial to the light.
But the traffic from this PUD, if approved.
It will, yeah, this will
Can't
have
get
some
to-
traffic through Deer Park, some out in the 46, but you're gonna have a reduction coming from people already using Deer
But there
Park.
can't be an access from any of this development onto Centennial directly, correct?
The apartments don't directly hit the access point. There is one there that is supposedly being worked on. I'm hopeful that that happens at some point sooner than later, but that's outside of the
No, I get that, I'm just
Yeah.
trying to grab the whole scope here while we're talking about it.
Yeah.
So there will eventually be a connector between something within this 17 acres to Centennial?
Hopefully, yeah.
But no guarantee.
No.
I get it, I'm just trying to get the whole phase of it here. Okay, is there other public comment?
Hi, my name is Brian Thomas. I live on Rendell Lane, so my property is just west of the proposed development. I think my neighbors have covered most of the topics here pretty well. I've always known since I moved in there almost 16 years ago that it would be developed. When we bought our property, I know it was zoned, it was a farm, and thought was it would be another housing addition, which was perfectly fine in my opinion. I understand why they want to build apartments. I just think it's a bad location. A lot of it is the congestion, a lot of what we've talked about, the people turning right, turning around on Deer Park or the gas station right there used to be Citgo, making all the different congestion worse than it is. I have 2 kids, live there with my wife and the 2 kids. My daughter's going to start driving in a couple years. So I'm concerned, like a lot of the other neighborhood families, about safety as our children are trying to learn how to drive and pull out on Highway 46. I understand that there's a need for apartments and don't disagree with that. But I would go back to Mr. Ellis's comment earlier about, I know you guys are not Bloomington, you're not Monroe County, you listen. I don't think we need to be another Bloomington. That's one reason my wife and I moved from an apartment in Bloomington to buy a home over here in Ellettsville. So please take that into consideration. I ask that you vote no against this ordinance. And I think it's the best for the community, and it'll be a great single-family home addition if that's what Mr. Blackwell decides to do with it. Thank you.
The question I was asking everybody, I'll ask you. Would you, if this were already in place, would you have moved to where you moved to?
We would not have. We did look at the property and see what the zoning behind us was, just because we wanted to make sure we had at least reasonable privacy.
Okay.
So, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Step up, please. Well, we let her go, and then we'll come back to you, Mr. Coyne. It's okay.
I've come ill-prepared. This is very spontaneous. There is mention, and there has been mention, of not putting a stoplight in at Deer Park. I think we all know that really is necessary because of the traffic issues that have been discussed many times. We live on Centennial. There is a proposal, I'm hearing things, eventually they want to use Centennial. That will create on Centennial what is now happening on Ashbrook. We will have a large community of traffic situations for families, not only in the Ashbrook and Deer Park area, but now we're talking about putting Centennial on the agenda as well. I just kind of want to toss this out in advance, something to think about as we're looking long-term at these proposals. Centennial will dump out into one stoplight there at the intersection. It's already a busy intersection with Taco Bell and Speedway and whatnot. And if you bring all of that traffic and all the traffic that is already starting to flood out, the part they just opened that is now just gravel with chunks of cement, there are people ramping over the chunks of cement to use that as a shortcut to get to the stoplight. I foresee this as being a huge problem as we go forward. I know we're not to the Centennial issue yet, but I keep hearing it. It's coming up, and it's what's going to become next on the agenda. So again, I apologize that I'm not well prepared, but I wanted to put that out there as something to think about as we move forward in these discussions. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Ma'am, could you state your name, please? Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Renee Kaiser, and I am on Centennial. Thank you.
Just a comment for clarity, if I can, and one of you correct me if I'm wrong. It's not the town's decision concerning putting a stoplight in at Deer Park. That would be DOT because that's a state highway, correct?
Correct.
So we have no control over that. That's something we've fought at other places for years. So while we can appreciate the need potentially for one there, the state controls that, and that's not something that's within our purview to address. So just to put out there as a way of explanation, because I know there will be people ask, well, why haven't you done that already? We can't. It's not ours. So is there other public comment? Seeing none, I believe Mr. Coyne, did you want to make a comment? And you'll be limited to the same 3 minutes.
It's going to be difficult. I want to explain how we got here. This property came on the market as zoned C3. C3 has a long list of commercial uses. Would you mind sending that down there? It was chosen because it was C3, meaning that the traffic that comes with high-intensity commercial use was already zoned into this land. Mr. Blackwell got his subdivision. When we wanted to build 168 apartment units, as you can see from the list of uses on the last one, multifamily is an exception. Permitted is apartments over commercial. We did not want to build apartments over commercial. We wanted to build apartments. Apartments over commercial generate far more traffic than simple multifamily. There is a slide here. Could you go back to that slide? Yeah, there it is. And we have copies of this. A traffic engineer analyzed this site of apartments over commercial versus the 168 units of the flats on 46. And there is a 70% reduction in traffic with this project as opposed to what you could build by right in a C3 zone. So if this project doesn't happen and these lots go to someone else, they can go in and build apartments over commercial or whatever that's listed in the C3 zone. We view this as a significant step down from that, and the council has an opportunity to reduce the traffic, reduce the impact over what this current C3 zone would be. I hope I made that clear. So thank you for your time. And we'd answer questions. Yes, sir.
Yeah, that would be, though, assuming this stays as a C3 zoning. The zoning could always be changed.
It is C3 now. Yes.
Right, the zoning could be changed, though, to something less, to reflect the wills of the public around. That's what I'm saying.
I would have to defer to the planning department and legal counsel on that one.
Well, the owner would have to make a petition
Okay.
to change it.
Okay.
So if I can ask a hypothetical. Sure. If this were to be denied in the current form as a PUD, and seeing the, quite frankly, extensive list of what is allowed in a C3 zoning, would there be potential that you come back and just simply build it within the C3 with commercial attached to it in any event?
We have possible. So the Ridge Group has a contract with Mr. Blackwell to buy the subject to our project being approved. If our project wouldn't be approved, our choice then is to buy it or not buy it. If we don't buy it, it's for sale to someone else. They could do that. We could consider doing that as well. Certainly. Because it would not require the extensive plan commission and town council that we've been through. It would,
Right, it would just be a straight-out bill.
Yeah, I think, as Kevin can tell you, it would be a straight-up by right development. As would, I don't know, Walmart or whatever commercial, the whole list is there in front of you.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you, I was a little shocked to read that this zoning allows for an outdoor amusement park.
It's, well,
I'll be blunt, I hadn't seen that one before. It's under D, health fitness facility, indoor, outdoor amusements, parks, playgrounds.
it is the highest level of commercial development with the highest traffic impact. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Other public comment? Seeing none, we'll go back to council for questions, comments, et cetera.
I understand the risk of it being built because it's C3, and I would encourage everybody that's responsible for what is allowed in C3 to reconsider what is allowed in C3, because I think this was a major mistake to begin with, and previous councils or plan commissions put this in here, and I don't understand the logic of putting this type of zoning in with right adjacent to single unit family homes. And you know, one of the things that when I started getting involved in politics, I saw with local government, the public would be outraged about something, and the voting body would just sit there like bumps on a log, not even acknowledge what the public said, and then do whatever the heck they wanted. And I'm not going to do that. I believe that Ellettsville was built on single-family dwellings. We don't have a bunch of apartment complex. And you leave the dance with the girl that you brought. You do not switch midfield to say, let's hope this will be growth. So I will be a definitive no on this, because the public and the people around there, they're Ellettsville. And I'm not going to take a risk on what it brings in.
Other questions or comments from council?
We've taken in a lot of information tonight. Thank you to everybody for coming out. I do appreciate it. Do you think, and this is just the four of us talking here, Dan needs to be a part of this vote?
I do. He wanted to voice his opinion on it.
And that's kind of what I was leading with is
Yeah. Yep.
This really needs to be a 5-member vote tonight.
I agree.
So I'm going to propose we table it.
I second.
Okay, before we deal with the motion in a second, is there further council comment? Because as Trevor said, there's a lot to weigh here.
I'd like to know if the people here want us to delay it, because this meeting was advertised. I don't know why Dan's not here, but.
He's on
Again.
vacation.
Huh?
He's in Florida.
Well, I mean, there's Zoom, so we're just passing electronics thing.
Agreed.
So, I mean, I would hate for the public to be delayed just because a council member's not here, but I understand what you're saying. But-
Actually, I don't think Dan could have participated
'Cause
by
we had
Zoom
that.
because you didn't pass the electronic meetings policy until tonight,
Oh,
so,
then you can log in now, though, right?
well,
Not sure it works like that.
yeah.
So if I can ask, and again, from my own perspective, and forgive me for dragging this out before we get to the motion, Kevin, how long has this been Zone C3, and was it a change? I mean, I know when the property was originally there, it was residential. But was it residential setting on C3 for decades, as some of them been?
My understanding is when it was annexed, and Sandy may know more about this than I do, the property owner asked for it to be Zone C3 upon annexation. And that was early 2000s?
Yeah, maybe 5 or 6.
She'll forgive you for calling her old, but okay. So this came into the town as C3?
No.
Okay.
Came into the town as residential because this family was still living there. Since then, they've passed away, and their children are the ones that petitioned the town to change the zoning to C3.
Okay. And we think that was in the early 2000s?
Mhm. 5 or 6, 2005 or 2006.
But we could always change what C3 allows and keep the zoning, correct?
I don't think that's within our purview, is it, in
It's
that
not?
planning?
Well, I'm talking about the town.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
But it wouldn't affect this
Right,
proposal.
This proposal would be grandfathered in, so any new changes to the C3 or what's allowed in C3 wouldn't affect this owner.
But it would rule out the current owner or any other developments that they sell it for.
I'd have to check that for you.
And I'd like to add this land has set vacant and for sale since that rezone in 2005 or 2006. Just for your information.
So Kevin, if I can ask further, and forgive me, everyone, in the front, in the petitioner's maps, are we anticipating commercial up along 46?
There are 3 lots set aside for commercial uses. I don't know that anything's been identified yet, but they are there.
And they're not part of this.
No, again, I get it. I'm just trying to get a continual scope of the entire thing. In the back, we're building single residential family, right?
Correct.
And in the front, at least 3 lots. Is lot 19 able to be subdivided into a 4th lot?
I don't know if that's if they have anything in their plat that prohibits that. I don't recall that, but I don't know that for a fact, so I suppose it's possible.
What lot again?
19 is the one in the front, it's the northwest corner.
Okay.
So potentially, we're looking at 3 commercial developments there, whether they be restaurants, whether they be repairs, whether they be gas stations.
Yeah.
All those are allowable.
Yeah.
And then the property just to the east of this is also C3, which is not a part of this? Is that correct?
Correct.
And that has no defined use other than the single resident sitting on it now?
Correct.
Do we know of any plans to develop that at all?
The homeowners here.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Are there other questions or comments before we move to the motion? Okay, Sandy, you have a motion and a second to table whenever you're ready.
Scott Oldham,
Yes.
Pamela Samples,
Yes.
William Ellis,
No.
Trevor Sager.
Yes.
Motion is tabled.
Okay. We revisit this at our next public meeting, which is when, Sandy? If you'll remind us?
August the, I'm not sure. It seems like maybe the 12th, but everybody got their cell phone. I didn't bring mine.
I'm just going to provide that for...
Yeah.
August 9th.
August 9th.
Kevin, could you, in the interim, provide council with kind of a history of this property as to when it was brought into the town? And again, I know it doesn't mean a lot, but let's just take a broader scope look before we make this decision.
Yeah, I'll look at that. I'll send that out.
And do we have a traffic count? Have we had a traffic count already done in the area, like on Ashbrook already?
There was a traffic study done.
On Ashbrook?
Well, as part of the, I can't remember if it was the subdivision or the apartments.
It was for the whole subdivision.
For the whole subdivision. All right, I have that, don't I? All
Darrell,
right, I'll send that out.
Is there any reason for us to ask for, that we could not ask for another traffic count?
You mean from NDOT?
From us, within the area that we control?
No, I mean, I don't think there's any reason why you couldn't do that.
Could we get a traffic count, please? Whoever's got the machine. You put it out until we get to our next meeting, whenever you get a chance. That way we can get traffic count per day and frequency and whatnot.
I'll get with you after for locations.
Okay, please.
See, I thought traffic counts were done by some guy going 1, 2, 3. I guess not.
Yeah, but you get into your...
And
That's
so
true.
You're asking the street department to do it where, on what street
We'll
specifically?
probably have to look, but probably Ashbrook and Deer Park as well, just to get a scope, because that's part of the problem is traffic. Let's see what's currently there. Okay. I don't know where we are now. All right, now we're down to privilege of the floor. Anyone having comments for the council not part of our regular agenda? Seeing no one, we'll move to supervisor comments. Town manager? Council comments? Yes, please.
Jay, I'd like to congratulate you on your new position, and I hope you enjoy it.
And by the way, Kip's taking tomorrow off, so it's you.
And you have to buy donuts for everybody.
Seeing no further council comments, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.